Hi, I'm John F. Allen. And I'm R.J. Sullivan. And we're the Two Towers.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Two Towers Talk Show recap review for DC's Legends of Tomorrow. I'm your host, John F. Allen, one half of the Two Towers. Today we'll be recapping and reviewing DC's Legends of Tomorrow, Season 1, Episode 6, titled Star City 2046. There will be details of the episode discussed here, which are spoilers. So, if you haven't yet seen the episode, please go watch it and then come back to view this show. So, on to the top 5 Tower talking points. Tower talking point number 1. Connor Hawke, aka John Diggle Jr. Quick backstory on Connor Hawke. In the comics, he was the son of Oliver Queen and a black girlfriend who grew up to take on the Green Arrow mantle when Oliver was believed to be dead. He was also ranked as one of the top martial artists in the DCU. However, Connor's origin in Legends of Tomorrow has been completely altered, which is cool because this is an alternate timeline altogether. In this timeline, Connor is the son of John Diggle and someone who apparently isn't Lila. He was born John Diggle Jr., but decided that since he was unable to save the life of his father, he was unworthy of the name, hence he adopted the Connor Hawke moniker. The Legends arrive in Star City 2046, where they encounter Connor. He, of course, perceives them as a threat, and a skirmish ensues. Once things settle down, and due in part to Sarah Lance, aka White Canary, Connor realizes they aren't his enemies and decides to help them retrieve a piece of tech they need to repair the Wave Rider. Connor informs the Legends that everyone they know is dead, including Oliver Queen. Tower talking point number 2. Grant Wilson, son of Deathstroke, aka Deathstroke Jr. Quick backstory on Grant Wilson. In the comics, Grant Wilson was the son of Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke, and he wasn't from the future. He was actually a villain of the Teen Titans from back in the 1980s run of the comic. The criminal organization Hive gave him abilities much like his father's, only those same abilities would eventually kill him. He went by the code name Ravager, not to be confused with the Isabel Rochev character from the Arrow TV show. He was contracted by Hive to take out the Titans because his father had refused to do it. But Grant died before he could fulfill the contract. That's why Deathstroke was so intent on fighting the Titans and eventually took up the contract from Hive to honor his son. Although this was what Hive had been planning all along. In this incarnation of Grant Wilson, who goes by Deathstroke, not Ravager, he leads a gang of criminals who have taken over the gutted remains of Star City. He also becomes fixated on killing Connor Hawke, the current Green Arrow. We also learn that prior to this time, he was responsible for severing Oliver's left arm. I'll touch upon that a bit later. Tower talking point number 3. Old Man Ollie 2046. A while back, Stephen Amell said that we'd never see him in the full Green Arrow goatee. Well, he was wrong. In 2046, Oliver has relinquished the mantle of Green Arrow and went into seclusion, leaving people to believe that he had died. The Legends and Connor Hawke arrive at Team Arrow's old headquarters in search of the tech they need. While there, they spot a bionic arm laying on the table. This foreshadows the incident in which Oliver lost his arm to Grant Wilson. Out of the shadows, an aged Oliver Queen appears, and it becomes apparent that he is in fact missing his left arm. Ollie tells the Legends that perhaps had they been there and not went off with Rip Hunter to the future, things might not have gone to hell as they did. This of course leaves Sarah feeling guilty, despite Rip Hunter's lectures about the future not being set. Ollie tells them where they can find the tech they need and dismisses them. Once they arrive to steal the tech, they are confronted by Deathstroke's minions, who they manage to fight off. However, Connor is taken hostage in the process. Tower talking point number 4. Captain Cold versus Heatwave. When the Legends arrive in 2046, They become separated, and Captain Cold and Heatwave are left on their own. They encounter a gang whose leader challenges them and who is quickly killed by Heatwave. As a result, Heatwave becomes the gang's new leader by default and enjoys the feeling of power and lawlessness that comes along with it. Captain Cold, however, is leery of what this will all mean for the future. He confronts Heatwave about his apprehensions and reminds him of Rip and Sarah still being out there. Heatwave brushes off his concerns in a cavalier fashion, basically saying to hell with them. Then, in walks Deathstroke Jr. and his crew. He demands that everyone in their lair start searching for Connor, Hawke, Sarah, and Rip. When Heatwave challenges this, he's met with his followers ignoring his orders and bending to Deathstroke Jr.'s demands. Captain Cold and Heatwave stand alone and make a pact that they'll help Rip and Sarah, then discuss the prospect of staying in the 2046 timeline later. More about how this develops as the show goes on. Tower talking point number 5. Old Man Ollie returns. Old Man Ollie, who had written off the legends and Connor, returns to the fold. After an impassioned plea from Sarah, Old Man Ollie dusts off his arrow suit, slaps on the bionic arm from earlier, which looks a lot like Palmer Tech, by the way, snatches up Connor's bow, and leads the charge against Deathstroke 2046. Sarah and Rip create a ruse to get close to Grant Wilson before he can execute Connor and eventually turn the tables on him. They are quickly joined by Captain Cold, Heatwave, Atom, Firestorm, and Hawkgirl. Once Deathstroke Jr. has been defeated, Old Man Ollie decides to continue the fight and joins Connor at the Team Arrow HQ to plan their next move. Afterwards, Captain Cold tricks Heatwave, who still wanted to stay in that timeline, sucker punches him and brings him back aboard the Wave Rider against his will. Once Heatwave awakens in the brig, Captain Cold explains the reasoning behind his actions, but Heatwave isn't buying it one bit. This creates a definite rift between the two friends, which I expect will be played out as the season progresses. Alright, so we've reached a segment of the show that is new, and this is called Easter Eggs. And this is where I run down the Easter eggs that I've found in this particular episode. A lot of the people new to the show or who aren't familiar with the comics won't notice these Easter eggs. And kind of little shout outs to the fans from the comics. Us longtime comic book readers will get a kick out of the Easter eggs nonetheless. So, here they are, Easter eggs. When Old Man Ollie tells the legends where to find the tech they're seeking, he tells them the location is at the intersection of O'Neill and Adams Streets. For longtime comic fans, this is a huge shout out to writer Denny O'Neill and artist Neil Adams. These two were the talent behind the early 70s classic run of Green Lantern and Green Arrow. If you haven't read those, check them out. Right now they're on sale at Comixology for 99 cents each until tomorrow, February 28th, so hurry while the sale lasts. You can also pick up old issues of Batman that O'Neill and Adams worked on as well. Now we've reached a segment of the show called Pros and Cons. This is where I give you my opinions on the pros and cons of the episode. Starting with the pros. I really like the way the characters are developing as the series progresses. Captain Cold is becoming more and more conscientious, while Heatwave is becoming more and more rogue. Firestorm and the two halves of the Firestorm Matrix, Jax and Martin, are bonding as individuals who have come to care for one another outside of being merged in the Firestorm Matrix. Sarah Lance is channeling the darkness within her to do good and stand out in the light, much as her sister Laurel suggested in the first episode. We're even seeing Rip Hunter learn from the legends and come to terms with his own selfishness and shortcomings. That said, the storyline for this episode was very interesting to me in that it details and deals with the future alternate timeline. The dystopian nature of the story is a departure from the other timelines the legends have explored thus far. I think the writers did a great job with the dynamic of Connor, Hawke, and Old Man Ollie. There's a definite Star Trek vibe with this episode that I really am digging on, and I hope that the series continues to explore new and exciting timelines as they also continue to put an end to Vandal Savage and his plans for world conquest. On to my cons. I really don't have much in the way of cons for this particular episode other than that I'd have liked to have known more about what happened to Team Arrow. Old Man Ollie's explanation was vague and dubious at best. I'd have also liked to know more about how Grant Wilson came to be and the fate of Slade Wilson, aka Deathstroke. I also wanted this to be a two-parter, even though I understand the time and budget constraints for the show would not allow that. Final thoughts. This episode was a fun-filled, action-packed romp, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I say that this is one of the better episodes of the series thus far, and they've had quite a few good ones. I think that the show is hitting its stride, and if the preview for next week's episode is any indication, they look to be reaching out with their storylines and moving into new territory within the Flareoverse. I give this episode 4 out of 5 towers. In related news, we'll be airing recap review shows for Supergirl, The Flash, Agent Carter, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Arrow, and DC's Legends every week. However, there is a programming note. Supergirl will be on a short hiatus and resume airing new episodes on March 14th. The Flash and Arrow will also be on a short hiatus, and they will resume new episodes on March 22nd and March 23rd, respectively. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to get them all. Also, be sure to tune in here for our next recap review shows, which I hope to air the day following the episode's actual air dates. Sometimes there's a delay, but I should definitely get them up before the next week begins. If I see any major issues arising, I'll make a post on Facebook and a tweet on Twitter. Thanks so much for tuning in, and until next time, Hewa! The Two Towers Talk Show is sponsored in part by Showtime Cinema in Mooresville, Indiana. Their friendly staff is always willing to go the extra mile to make your movie-going experience an enjoyable and memorable one. Enjoy the comfort of their new cushioned seating in their spacious auditoriums, and while you're there, be sure to stop by the concession stand and purchase some popcorn where real butter topping is an option. They're located at 300 South Bridge Street in Mooresville, Indiana. We hope to see you at the movies.